Alright, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Templar Assassin, and we'll get into this replay. So Tia is one of my favorite heroes, and I really think that this is a absolutely great hero for talented players to show off their skills and climb ranks with. I think that there are a lot of good things to learn about TA, and we're going to talk really quickly about a couple tips and tricks and lesser known things about TA that you maybe know or don't know, but we're going to go ahead and cover those just so all our bases are covered. So the first is the way that side blades work. So side blades are pure damage that is calculated based off of the damage that you do to the unit that you attack. So if you have two enemies and one has very, very high armor, so we'll go ahead and do this, then the enemy in the back doesn't really take a lot of damage because of how much armor the person that you're hitting has. Whereas if you switch it up and you hit, then he takes a lot of damage because the unit that you're hitting has very low armor. I think most people think that if I hit this hero, then he just takes whatever my damage is, and it's actually the damage that you deal to this hero is dealt to him as pure. The other thing that most people don't know about is the way that side blades work. So side blades, of course, split and hit whatever unit is behind them. And that's actually incorrect. So side blades work by they split and hit whatever unit is further away from you in a linear or in like a cone. So I can actually, this sounds really, really crazy. I can hit this guy in the front and side blade the guy in the back if I blink. See that? So it's relative to you when the hit lands. So, and that's a really good demonstration of that, because obviously that's impossible. So what that means is when you are in the laning phase, these little movements that you make allow you to kind of adjust your side blades. So if the enemy's walking around trying to dodge side blades, you just have to kind of mirror their movements and you can hit regularly. And you'll still be able to land your side blades. So that's a couple, like, little bit of tricks for side blades, which is the way that the damage works and the way that the split is done. One other thing about refraction, I'm sure everybody knows this already, but sometimes I find that people don't, which is the damage instances and the defensive instances are completely separate. So I can completely max out the damage instances and still have all of my refraction absorb instances. And what that basically means is you should use refraction both aggressively and defensively. Like, you want to use refraction in order to dodge spells and the damage of like nukes and stuff in the laning phase, but you also want to use refraction in order to just like get every single last hit. It used to be the case that the damage applied to denies, and they changed that when TA was really, really meta. Just like with Kunkka's Tidebringer, it no longer does bonus damage on denies, which I think is a good thing because it was a little ridiculous. Okay, we will jump into the replay now. And we're going to talk about a couple things. I think this was a pretty difficult game to win. I think it was a fine TA game, and it was winnable, but I think it was a hard game just based off of the draft and the way that the team dynamics, the teams were moving around the map. So, talking about draft order, Sven was the last pick for their team, and you were the last pick for your team. So I'm assuming that you picked Templar Assassin because of the Shadow Fiend. Now, that's fine, but I want to caution you to picking a hero just because it counters the enemy mid. So you have no solution on your team to Bristleback. You're countered by Venno. You don't really, really have a completely free TA game. You have a good mid matchup, but there's a lot of pressure on you to own this mid lane. Because later in the game, like if you're not ahead in stomping, then you're going to fall off because this bristle's going to run at you with a halberd, and Veno's going to destroy your refraction and you're going to die. So while it's fine to pick TA, and I don't want to completely discourage you from doing that, part of that's because I like the hero, but this also helps you learn how to play the game a little bit different way. Okay. So that being said, it does change how you jump. So if you want to jump the Shadow Fiend with your Blink Deso that you're going to get, then you have to be cautious of where the Veno is, because Veno's going to press the spells on you and your fraction's going to burn, and if there's another hero there, you're just going to die. So you have to play the map a little bit differently because of these heroes, but it doesn't mean that you can't play the hero. You just have to adjust item-wise and playstyle-wise. On these first few waves, in the TA versus Shadow Fiend matchup, we'll talk about your item and skill build real quick. Something that's really important to do in every mid matchup is as soon as these creep waves meet, click on SF. It's like, if you notice, something is missing. And if you notice this quick enough, you're going to notice, wait a second, something's not in his inventory that should be. He probably had a ward, and he gets away with this ward the entire laning phase, as far as I'm aware, because you don't click on him. The other thing that you don't do is you don't save your skill point. It's almost always a terrible idea to skill anything before the lane meet. That's true for side lanes, that's true for supports. You basically never ever want the skill, because there are so many times where you're going to say, oh my gosh, I wish I had this skill instead of that skill. Whether it's Meldick versus Coconut on Witch Doctor, whether it's Chaos Bolt or Chaos Strike or Stun or Warcry, it's like there's so many different options. Like this guy has Ice, what the hell? Okay, I'm going to make an exception. You should never skill Ice Path. What on earth? Alright, we'll move on. So in this matchup, if you click on Shadow Fiend, you can actually see the little passive indicator that pops up here on whether or not he has Necromastery. And if he doesn't have it, you can almost guarantee that he has Raises. So that's going to change the way that you skill. So if he starts with Raises, you almost always want to start with Refraction versus a good SF player, because he will get Raises on you and it will spam you out and you'll have to buy a salve. And if he has Souls, then you could get Side Blades. Okay, so as you play the lane, of course, you want to maximize the last hits you get and minimize the number of last hits the enemy gets. So making sure on TA that you're using Refraction consistently in the laning phase is really, really key to making sure that you dominate this laning phase. So we already talked about, right? Like you pick this to counter this guy, you need to own him. You can't just draw even, you need to own him. And these things like not pressing Refraction constantly to get every last hit and pressure him with Side Blades, is a big deal. Like you actually hit him with a lot of Side Blades, honestly. Like you did really, really well with that on the first couple of waves. But since you don't have Refraction up, the amount of damage that you do is minimal. And like he pops a Tango and he's fine. And if he's on 100 HP, like he's buying a salve or he's going to base. In fact, he doesn't even fly a salve out. So like the fact that this guy is playing poorly, you should be taking advantage of that. And you're gimping yourself in two ways. One, you're not clicking on him to see what items he has. No, he doesn't have, and like understanding he doesn't have a salve, so I can play aggressively with my mana. Because if he has no HP and I have no mana, he still can't come to lane. And then the other thing is making sure that you get every single freaking CS with this hero. Like you have very high base damage. You have crazy damage when you add Refraction up. You need to get every last hit. If you can't get every last hit, you need to get almost every last hit. And you need to go in a custom lobby and practice until you can get every last hit. Something you can do in the demo is, let me show you, I'll jump out and jump back in. You want to practice. And I haven't played TA in a few days, so I'm probably a little rusty and might embarrass myself here on this video. But you can make a dummy target and a hero, and whatever your patrol key is, you can have him patrol in kind of like a weird area, and you can practice. Gosh, this is such an awful spot for that dummy. And you can practice landing side blades. So that's something you can do. I'm not doing a very good job of this myself. Of course, it's only level 1, but that's something you can do to practice. And one of the great things about TA is there's so much mechanical skill involved that it's something you can practice without having to be in a game. Like, you can go in these custom lobbies and you can practice farming. And we're going to talk about that because I think your farming patterns and your efficiency was pretty poor. And it turns into having a late timing. And those things make a big difference in how the game goes. Okay, skipped forward a little bit too far. So here, this is a replay bug that you have these damages up, but you don't. So you should basically never be full mana on TA. You should be spamming refraction and spamming clarities. And you're just kind of letting this SF, who doesn't want to lane versus you, just lane because you're not using your abilities. You're also going to get your level 6 a little bit slower because of your efficiency here. So, like, going under tower and trying to deny these creeps is a thing that TA does really well. Now, you want to try to, like, I'm sure you already know this again, but I'm going to just say everything. Since you can sideblade off of denies, making sure that you deny, and as your attack flies through the air, that you get in a spot where the side blade hits him is a pretty big deal. And you can get a couple really, really good cheap hits off without drawing or aggro that way. If you're not going to do that, or you're not consistent with it, or if he's just going to have you chase him to his tier 2 every single time because the creeps are full HP, then you can go and farm camps. You can go and farm this small camp. You can go stack this camp or whatever the heck you want to do in order to increase your own efficiency. The biggest thing to consider when you're playing TA is, how can I increase the net worth difference between me and him the most? Now, you don't really care. Let's say you had an 18-minute deso and he had 20-minute brown boots. Do you really care that it's an 18-minute deso when he has nothing? Like, that's not really what matters. What matters is that you have so much more than him, not so much. So doing whatever you can in order to decrease his farm and increase your farm is really, really important. Like, just use your refraction. Get all these last hits. Instead of missing 3 of them, press refraction and get 4 CS. So the other thing you can do is, like, with refraction, you can farm these small camps or these medium camps really, really quickly. And that just kind of amps up your damage. And here, at 5 minutes, SF is level 5, and what is he doing, right? It's like he is dealing with the lane and getting camps. And you need to be doing this, except faster. So here you go for the bounty, that's fine. You're walking way too much. Like, even if you get that last hit, it's just not worth 20 seconds of your time. Like, it's 180 gold. It's like 1 ancient camp or less. Okay, and we talked about farming. So here, this is a great example where you're hitting the big wolf instead of spilling onto the big wolf from the smaller creeps. So this wolf, let's see if I can find another. I'll just back up. So this wolf has 15% damage reduction, and this one has 5. So you effectively do an additional 10% damage if you just hit the small wolf. And you do an additional 10% damage to both of these creeps. On Ancients, when you go farm Ancients, this guy has 26% damage reduction, and the small one has 10. So you do 16% more damage to the entire stack or camp if you're hitting the correct target. And hopefully you can see how doing that over the course of the entire game leads to faster farming speeds. Using traps to farm is fine. Something I haven't mentioned yet, which I should, is you haven't placed traps mid. Now, he does have a sentry that you don't know about, but you can even just place a trap, see if the creeps hit it, and if so, then you can ask your support to buy you a sentry, or you can buy one yourself. But the fact that he's just standing on these stairs and raising down the creep wave is unacceptable. So he should be under pressure here. If you're like you're not diving him, you're not hitting him, you're not placing traps and slowing him, like at the very least you can go and stand on top of these stairs and you can threaten him with your posturing. So you're playing this lane like you're not supposed to dominate it, and you're just way too passive, honestly. Like this guy has basically probably the same net worth as you for the most part. Yeah, 300, a little bit less than 300, 220 or something. Like in these lanes that you're supposed to dominate, you have to dominate. I watched a YouTube video of Miracle getting absolutely rolled mid by some immortal 300 like Meepo or something like that. Absolutely rolled. And it's like Miracle's like rank 1. He's playing one of his best heroes and he gets absolutely rolled by this guy. And I'm like, huh, that's so interesting. And I watched some other videos of pros losing mid, and I'm like, why are these guys losing mid to people who are literally 3k MMR beneath them? Like the difference between rank 300 and rank 1 is like 3000 MMR. It's an enormous difference. Absolutely enormous difference. Like, why are they getting stomped by these lanes? And I realized that, okay, it's the matchup. Like, I don't need to flame my teammate when he loses a particular matchup. However, when you're the one in the winning matchup, you need to know how to play these lanes aggressively. If you don't know how to do it, go watch a YouTube video of somebody doing it to get experience. The other thing you can do is you can get an alternate account, and you can play so hyper aggro on every hero, and you can learn how to be aggressive. But you are so passive in this lane. You should be standing on top of these stairs. You should be putting traps. You should be contesting his farm. You should be diving him under tower and hitting him when you've got refraction up. Like, you can press refraction here. I know I've said this like a million times, but you never press refraction. Like, press refraction, go hit him. Like, don't draw aggro. You can just walk at him, and you can auto him once or twice if you need to. And then you can back up. And it's like, and you're going to half health this idiot. And all it costs you is 100 mana. And you've got this salve, you got stick charges and a fairy fire. It's like, this dude has a bottle and a fairy fire. It's not like he's he's going to like right click you to death. If people TP, they TP. Perfect. You saved your team some time. Another thing to consider is like there's this DD here that we can see because we're in God mode for replays. It's like if you have a trap on this top one or on this bottom one, you even have a ward here and you don't go for this rune, which is crazy. Like you are just not utilizing the information and the abilities that are available to you. And this comes back to haunt you when the game doesn't go so well. It's like SF got to fill up his bottle and he got 200 mana from this plus a bottle. In the meantime, like, you're just not that more farm than him. So if you're going to make these like passive plays, you need to be so efficient that like you're running at these guys with an 11-minute deso and a 13-minute blink. If you're not looking to play with an 11-minute deso because you're not that efficient, then you need to be playing more aggressive with your hero. Like, this guy basically just had a free lane. Like, you also had a free lane, but he had a free lane. And he should have no lane. He should be leaving this lane because he just feeds. He feeds anytime he walks. And if he doesn't feed, it's because somebody TP'd and you walk away in a straight line. Like, they have full duration sentry and you don't even know about it. And then when it expires, you still don't have traps. Every single time this SF walks up here, as soon as you're level 6, you should get trapped in the forehead. And then you should hit him 5 times. Here, like efficiency stuff, I know you go for the stack, that doesn't work because this camp is freaking bullshit. But you should be hitting a small dragon, getting the additional 16%. So, like, we can go look at... Here, let's go look at a TA game of mine. We'll look at net worth at 10 minutes. This is my most recent one. I have no clue how well I did. So... Oh, I got pugged in mid. Okay. I did really poorly, apparently. But we got it back at some point. So here, in a game that I had a very rough lane, where I got counter-picked mid, I had 3.7k, and this is like losing a tower plus dying because I got rotated on with a Pugna. 3.7k net worth at 10, and like you are barely going to be ahead of me. Like in a lane that I get stomped, like it's the opposite of this lane, I'm almost as farmed as you. And that isn't like the point of that isn't to brag and say, look at how much of a better player I am than you. This is just to show you that there is so much potential for you to be so much more efficient and so much more aggressive on this hero. Like even if you go and you die, right? Like at least you're learning how to make the plays. Well, I noticed this we'll talk about as well. Your build also is limiting your aggression as well. Like side blades, the range is nice, but having the additional meld points is much better. Generally, you go, except refraction level 1 when you go versus SF. At level 9, you'll have 4 points in refraction, 2 in side blades, 2 in meld, 1 in your ult. And then whether or not you get a second point in your ult at level 11 is up to you. Generally, you max meld second, and you get 2 points in side blades, and that's it. The additional points don't really do much. Okay. We've talked about trap placement a little bit. I feel bad if I harp about the same things over and over, but I feel like your efficiency and your trap placements is what's losing you games on TA, and your lack of aggression as well. And part of that lack of aggression is because of your lack of traps. Like, if you have a trap here on this rune, the reason that this Venomancer is here is because he assumes that you have a trap on this rune, and so he's protecting it for his SF. Now, if you see this, like if they have a ward here, they can run at you and kill you, and they don't, so you live. But you don't even have the like information to make that kind of a play. And they're like this is the most aggressive thing you've done all game, and that just kind of feels weird to me to say the most aggressive thing you did was yoinking a rune right in front of an SF. And he got Arcane and walked top to get a regen. Like, these runes should not be living. You know he has the bottle, and you want the rune. If you get a haste or a DD or something, like, you can take this tower with DD. You can force rotations. And it's kind of hard for me to even talk about other things with TA because there's simply not a way of watching you do it. Like, for example, how to dive this S7 and kill him. The fact that you never even get close to him, I can't really tell you, this is how you could have dove him. Like, maybe you should place a trap here or here. These things are really hard to talk about because you're basically just AFK farming on a hero that has so much more potential. Small other thing is Tread Switch. This is a really, really great hero. Any farming hero that does the same spell over and over and over again. Really, really easy to learn to Tread Switch. You can put it on whatever hotkey is best for you. I have this slot as space, and every single time I press refraction, I double tap space to go from agi to strength to int. I press refraction, and then I press space again, and I'm back on agi. And I don't know how much mana it saves you altogether, but the fact that you're not spamming clarities and you're full mana means you're not pressing your spells at all. I am always on like 1/3 mana and have a clarity going the entire game. Like literally the entire game I have clarities. From minute, I don't know, 4 or something to the end of the game I have clarities. Unless I get some mana regen item like a Orchid. Here you push the tower at 12 minutes. This is good. Like these kinds of moves you should be making. Like Witch Doctor came up and what the heck did he do? It's like you needed multiple heroes in order to threaten you, and they're simply not rallying around you yet. So again, you're just like you're waiting for something to let you be aggressive, and like you already have it. Like you're already the strongest hero on the map. Here you have DD. We'll talk about like hypothetical situations here. If you're more efficient, if you're more aggressive, then you have Deso at this time pretty consistently. And if you have max meld instead of max side blades, you can literally just walk in Roche and take Roche by yourself. And maybe you ask your Ochre friend who you're partied with to come and help you take Roche by pressing Bloodlust and tanking a couple autos. And like imagine the game if you get Aegis right here at 12 minutes for free with a Deso. like all of a sudden you can walk and take this tower. You can take over the jungle with your team. Like you have this huge power spike where even if they blow everything on you, you have Aegis, and you and your teammate can run around, and like literally the two of you can threaten any 4 heroes on the map because of how strong you would be. Additional, like in better trap placement as well, would also change that. Like you've got 4 traps out. This is the 4th one you placed. You have a total of 5 that you can't place. You're about to hit level 12. You take the point and trap, and like you should be trapping on these stairs, trapping back here, on this camp, on these runes. Like anywhere you go, you should have this network of traps. I like to use Broodmother as an example, which is like you should have a web of traps. Everywhere you go, you bring your web of traps with you, and you detonate. Like you can click and detonate manually any of the traps that aren't where you want them, and you can bring this web with you to where the only chance that you have of getting caught by surprise from an enemy hero is a Shadow Blade or a smoke. And if you know they have a Shadow Blade, then you can play the map a little differently. Okay. Another thing I wanted to talk about is how items change where you play on the map. So Deso doesn't change your safety. It changes your kill threat. So you're much more dangerous, but it doesn't really change where you can stand. The reason for that is because if they're going to kill you, they're going to kill you whether or not you have a Deso. However, when you have Blink, it changes a lot. So here, like pushing this lane top, this is a good play. And you should continue to push this lane. Like, you can keep following it down. You place traps, like your Ogre's with you. You can place a sentry if you guys park somewhere. Like, why are you not just placing trap up here? What if they walk at you? Like, even though they're showing like idiots, what if they TP and walk at you? Okay, you finally do. It's not the best, but whatever. We'll do. And then, like, again, if you have your Ogre stand behind you, you can threat this tower till someone TPs. And if they don't TP multiple people, like, you can just stun them and then you kill them. And it just feels like this whole game, you're just, like, scared. And you don't need to go in like an idiot and try to 1v5, but you don't have to be so scared as well. It's really lack of information, I guess, is, like, where I feel like you're suffering. You don't know, like, if you have good information, then you can play a lot more aggressively. And it's not aggressive. It's just you're playing a lot more forward because you know where they are. And if they come, then you leave. It's not like you're not looking for some crazy, you know, YouTube clip where you Psyblade off of a creep and get a rampage 1v5 at 17 minutes. So, like here, if you make this play, if you wait like 20 seconds to make this play, and if you have refraction up like this whole time. So, like, one of the reasons you need to have refraction going up the whole time is not just for the sake of the damage and stuff, but like having the cooldown as well. So if you're pressing it off cooldown, the likelihood that you get to use refraction twice in a fight is much higher because you'll always have refraction up. So it's like if you had refraction when you were farming this camp, you would have refraction up right now, and then you could refraction TP. Or you could refraction and man up on this guy, like whichever. So like you bought these clarities forever ago, and you're not using them because you don't press your spells. I mean, it's kind of a shame. Yeah, like if we just fast forward, look at how often you press refraction. Like the spell should literally never not be on cooldown. Unless you're dead. Okay, so at this point, I've watched this replay. This is the third time now that I've watched this replay, and the game is kind of over from here. Itemization-wise, obviously Deso Blink very core. Crystallis, I think, is a complete mistake. You're not able to fight because of a lack of BKB, not because of a lack of damage. Because So what I want you to take away from this is you need to learn how to play aggressive in matchups that you dominate. And when you're going through the map, you need to have these, like, this web is the word I used, this web of traps that follows you around and gives you information. So TA split pushes really, really well. She threatens towers because of her high damage, so she forces rotations constantly. And TA doesn't want a 5-on-5. Like, she wants to split the map, to split up the enemy team, and then to kill people. So if you're pushing this tower and Bristleback TPs plus Veno, let's say, hypothetically, or Witch Doctor or somebody, then you can go and take a fight somewhere else on the map, or you can push a different tower somewhere else on the map. Something else you need to prioritize is Roshan. Like, getting Roche as quickly as possible after your Deso is very, very key. And some of these core ideas for TA, you're just not implementing, and this is why you're going to lose games. So I think I will end it here. Like I said, I've already watched the rest of this, and there's not really much to talk about other than more of the same, which is you basically only take safe farm, and you miss your timing because of when you're passive and when you're aggressive. So I hope this helps. If you have more questions about TA, let me know. I highly, highly recommend, cannot overstate this, go in a custom lobby, practice being efficient, try to get 11-minute Deso, like, every time. Because if you have complete free farm, you should be able to get an 11-minute Deso very, very easily. And what it's going to do is it's going to force you to learn how to CS, get every last hit, and how to stack camps and be efficient with your walks. That's not really something that I can just tell you, but it's something that you're going to have to experience and learn, and it's just like, it's going to be second nature for you to walk around and get good farm. So I will see you later.